Joining me now is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, I think the most shocking thing of all the shocking things that we've seen is that after all this destruction that the Democrats have created, left in their wake, the left is just doubling down on the same policies. They don't make any change whatsoever.
Yeah, Laura, I think the only thing they've changed their tune on is now they seem to pretend that they believed all along school closures were bad and that school closures have had negative impacts on kids. But as you laid out in your monologue very well, you and I and others in the spring of 2020 were saying we had to get our schools open again. And that's exactly what we did in states like Arkansas in the fall of 2020. We had kids in classes 5 days a week. A lot of other states did as well, but all those Democratic-run states and school districts kept their schools closed and did a great job of cataloging all of the misery and pain that we've inflicted on our children. They've fallen behind academically, emotionally, and socially. Many of them are stunted in their development. And all that idle time has led to a surge in juvenile delinquency and crime. But as you say, what has the Biden administration done besides school closures? They've just doubled down on all these policies. When parents, when the one silver lining of these closures, saw what their kids were being indoctrinated with and began to stand up at school boards or run for school boards, Merrick Garland sicked the feds on them. Joe Biden is waging war on charter schools. They're using Title IX to try to ruin women's sports and force kids to learn more about what pronouns to use rather than how to get a subject and a verb to agree with each other. And as you say, parents are fed up with this across the country, and parents are going to reject the Democrats this fall because they have not forgotten what these Democrats have done to our children for the last 2 years.
Yeah, hurting our economy is bad enough. Hurting our kids, we won't tolerate that. And the amazing thing as well, Senator, is that failure gets rewarded in liberal land, because Gavin Newsom is headed to Washington to accept an award in recognition of California's transformative improvements to education. Now, just a note on the citation for the award, it's for his explicit attention to whole child supports and services. Now, California offered children the least in-person school, Senator, of any state in the country. This is insulting.
Yeah, that's a farce. And tragically, California public schools have been failing their kids since long before this pandemic. The school closures only accelerated the academic losses and the crime we see among our children. Again, that's why I and you and so many other conservatives 2 years ago were advocating to keep our kids in schools. And we're standing up in the fight against things like the 1619 Project and critical race theory when a lot of Republicans didn't want to touch those issues. That's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. And I promise you, when we win the majorities back this fall, that's what we're going to start doing in January. We're going to put the brakes on this radical Democratic agenda and start focusing on teaching our kids not just how to get the skills they need to get a good job in our economy, but also teaching them to love our country and to be good citizens as well.
And speaking of that, Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii made a interesting, to put it kindly, comment about the Constitution on Capitol Hill today.
With the attitude or the approach of originalism, the justices who take that approach go all the way back to our founding fathers and pretend that they know what our founding fathers meant when they drafted the Constitution. I use the word pretend because who the heck would know what our founding fathers meant?
Well, why should kids have any respect for our founding documents if she basically is just blowing it all off like it doesn't matter?
Yeah, that's another head scratcher from Mazie Hirono. Gosh, how could you possibly understand, Laura, what our founding fathers thought the Constitution and the Declaration meant? Maybe it's that James Madison and Alexander Hamilton wrote 85 different newspaper columns now collected in something called the Federalist Papers, or that Madison and Jefferson and Adams and Washington wrote letters and speeches and ordinances and resolutions that total up volumes and volumes of what they believed about America and the promise that America held for everyone. That's exactly what justices should be doing, and that should also be what guides us in Congress, what guides our legislatures across the country, is fulfilling those founding ideals, not simply dismissing them as if they're somehow unknowable when the founders literally wrote multi-volume books about what the Constitution means.
Well, Senator, do you actually think Mazie Hirono has poured through the Federalist Papers? Okay, then You and I might disagree on that. It's great to see you tonight, as always, Senator Cotton.